when you're set apart, you're being set up for great. Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when you will feel estranged, not just from others, but even from yourself. You'll feel like you don't belong, like the current of culture is rushing in one direction and you're standing still or moving against it. You might be tempted to think you've failed, but I urge you to reconsider that feeling, not as a flaw in your character, but as a sign of your potential. Being set apart is not the same as being cast away. It is often a prelude to transformation. Caterpillars withdraw from the world before becoming butterflies. They don't announce their metamorphosis on social media. They disappear. They dissolve in darkness. And yet, what emerges is unrecognizable in comparison to what entered. You see, many people choose conformity not because it's meaningful, but because it's comfortable. But meaning doesn't reside in comfort, it dwells in sacrifice, in responsibility, in pushing beyond the obvious and the easy. When you're set apart, it's often because you are developing a vision that others can't yet comprehend. You're cultivating a structure of being that transcends the ordinary, and that is no small task. It demands discipline, it demands loneliness, but above all, it demands courage. You must carry the burden of your uniqueness with pride, not shame. The world has no shortage of people who follow the path. What it lacks are those willing to forge one. To be set apart is to be tasked with something more, something higher. It's not a punishment, it's a calling. So when you find yourself on the outside looking in, remember, you are not behind. You are not late. You are being refined. The delay is preparation. The discomfort is instruction. The solitude is strategy. Hold your ground. Because often, being set apart is not life's way of rejecting you. It's life's way of positioning you. You're being set up, not for the mediocre, but for the magnificent. When you feel like you're being set apart, left out, overlooked, or even rejected, it's easy to internalize that experience as evidence that something is wrong with you. The mind, always searching for patterns and meaning, wants to fill in the blanks with stories. I'm not good enough. I don't belong. I must have failed somewhere. But those interpretations, while emotionally compelling, are often wrong. Being set apart is not the same as being cast aside. In many cases, it's not rejection at all. It's refinement. Life has a way of isolating those who are being prepared for something that demands depth, not distraction. And refinement by its very nature is not glamorous. It isn't done in crowds or under spotlights. Refinement happens in the quiet, often in discomfort. It's in the silence of those moments when others don't see your worth or value, where your character is shaped, your identity clarified, and your vision sharpened. In metallurgy, when you refine a piece of metal, you expose it to extreme heat to remove the impurities. What comes out of the fire is something stronger, something more valuable, something purer. The same principle applies to people. When you're in seasons where you feel excluded or set apart, those moments are often furnaces. They are spaces where what doesn't belong in you, doubt, fear, ego, distraction, gets burned off. And what remains is someone who is more focused, more resilient, more aligned with purpose. But refinement is not something you can schedule. It doesn't adhere to your timeline, and it rarely feels fair. That's part of what makes it powerful. It forces you to grow, not because you want to, but because you have to. It demands that you learn to stand without applause, to persevere without validation, and to build without immediate reward. Ironically, the very traits that make people feel different or misunderstood are often the seeds of what will later make them influential. But those traits must be refined before they can be effectively used. And refinement doesn't happen in the crowd. It happens in the quiet, in the unnoticed hours, in the painful in-between. So when you find yourself feeling apart from the group, the system, the trend, it may not be that you've fallen behind. It may be that you're being shaped for something the group is not ready for. And that shaping requires you to walk a path that few even see, let alone understand. That's not punishment. That's preparation. Transformation is not a public spectacle. It doesn't occur under bright lights or with a cheering audience. More often than not, it happens in solitude, unseen, uncelebrated, and deeply uncomfortable. When life draws you away from the noise, when you find yourself spending more time alone, wondering why you feel disconnected from the usual rhythms of others, it can feel like punishment. But in truth, it is often the necessary environment for real, lasting transformation. Consider the process of metamorphosis. A caterpillar doesn't evolve into a butterfly while surrounded by its peers. It isolates itself in a cocoon, dissolves into something unrecognizable, and only then reemerges transformed. The old form must break down entirely for something new and far more capable to take shape. That process cannot be rushed and it cannot be shared. It demands solitude. And it demands surrender to something deeper than what the caterpillar could understand in its earlier form. In human terms, solitude is often misinterpreted as loneliness or failure. But solitude, when embraced, can become a crucible for development. It is where the noise of the external world quiets enough for the internal voice to grow stronger. In the absence of constant comparison and social feedback, you begin to discover who you are, not who you've been told to be. This process is rarely comfortable. It can be disorienting, even painful, because it strips away the layers of identity that were built for acceptance rather than authenticity. The world tends to reward visibility, speed, and loud confidence, but personal growth works on a different axis. It values depth, patience, and integrity. Those traits can only be cultivated when you step away from the crowd and listen to the subtle signals of your own life. When you're no longer performing for approval, you begin to move from a place of purpose. That shift doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in the shadows, where you have no one to impress but yourself. Transformation in solitude teaches you resilience. It teaches you how to rely on your own inner compass when external affirmation is absent. And most importantly, it allows you to rebuild yourself intentionally, not automatically. You are no longer reacting to life. You are designing your response to it. So while the silence of solitude may feel like absence, it is often the quiet workshop where your greatest strengths are being forged. You're not just waiting, you're becoming, and becoming takes time. Conformity is often mistaken for safety, but it is not the path to meaning. The world encourages a certain kind of uniformity, a way of thinking, a way of being, a way of living that seems to promise ease, comfort, and acceptance. It tells you that if you follow the rules, stay within the lines, and keep pace with the crowd, you will be secure, well-liked, and successful. But the truth is that conformity is a trap. It offers a false sense of security because it never pushes you to become more than you already are. When you conform, you submit yourself to external standards, to the expectations and norms of those around you, to a framework that is designed for the average, for the predictable, for the safe. But meaningful life is not about fitting into a mold. It's about shaping your own form, about standing firm in your own truth and purpose. Real meaning doesn't lie in the comfortable spaces where everyone else is standing. It lies in the uncomfortable, in the places where your individual strengths are called to rise above the noise. The challenge with conformity is that it encourages mediocrity. It tells you that being like everyone else is enough, when in reality it's in the act of distinguishing yourself, of being different, that you find your true worth. To step away from the crowd, to refuse to be merely one among many, is an act of courage. It's a commitment to a higher ideal, one that is not bound by trends or popular opinion. It's a commitment to the unknown, to something that might not be widely understood or accepted, but that resonates deeply with your own sense of purpose. To seek meaning is to resist the pull of easy comfort, to resist the gravitational force that encourages you to blend in. Meaning is not comfortable because it requires you to take responsibility for your life. It demands that you confront the hard questions, the inconvenient truths, and the difficult choices. It asks you to live authentically, even when the world around you suggests it would be easier to simply comply. When you stop conforming, you open the door to growth. You allow yourself to move in directions that aren't dictated by others. You begin to define your own success, not by how closely you match the expectations of the world, but by how faithfully you follow your own vision. It's in this struggle against conformity that you discover your true potential, because it is only through challenging the status quo that you find out what you're truly capable of. So yes, conformity may offer the comfort of acceptance, but it never delivers the richness of a life well lived. True meaning is found in the act of daring to be different, in having the courage to walk a path that is uniquely your own, regardless of how many others are walking in the same direction. There's a quiet weight that often comes with being different, of knowing, even from a young age, that you don't quite fit the mold. Maybe you see things others don't. Maybe you feel things more deeply, or think more critically, or ask questions that make people uncomfortable. It can make you feel like an outsider, like something is wrong with you for not easily blending in. But that very sense of misfit, that discomfort with the ordinary, is often the first sign that you are called to something beyond the ordinary. The world tends to misunderstand what it doesn't recognize. Uniqueness threatens systems that rely on uniformity. So when you carry traits that are unusual, creativity that doesn't conform, depth that doesn't flatter, intelligence that questions instead of obeys, you may be seen as difficult, too intense, or simply strange. But those traits are not flaws. They are not accidents. They are clues. They point to a path that only you are equipped to walk. The mistake is in believing that these differences are a problem to be solved rather than a gift to be cultivated. When you suppress your uniqueness to gain approval, you lose more than just your authenticity. You lose the very qualities that could lead to your greatest impact. The truth is, your uniqueness is not a weakness to hide. It's a strength to harness. It may be raw, it may be misunderstood, and it may require refining, but it is powerful. And it has a purpose. You weren't meant to blend in because you were born to build something that doesn't yet exist. That kind of assignment requires a person who sees differently, who lives differently, who thinks beyond what is already accepted. Your differences are not there to isolate you. They are there to prepare you for work that only you can do. But it's not always easy to carry the weight of being set apart. There will be moments when the loneliness feels overwhelming, when the world's refusal to understand you makes you doubt your own value. In those moments, it's important to remember that pioneers rarely have a crowd cheering them on. Trailblazers don't follow, they lead. And leadership, especially of something new or radical, often begins in obscurity, powered not by applause, but by conviction. So don't bury your uniqueness to feel more accepted. nurture it, strengthen it. Let it guide you toward the kind of work in life that only someone like you could create. What sets you apart may not make sense to the crowd, but it's often exactly what the world needs, whether it knows it yet or not. There are times in life when everything feels delayed, when opportunities seem just out of reach, when progress is slow, and when every step forward seems to cost more than it should. It's natural in those moments to question yourself. You wonder if you've missed something, taken a wrong turn, or been forgotten altogether. But what feels like punishment is often something very different. It's positioning. And positioning is a far more strategic process than it first appears. Life, in its deeper rhythms, is not a race toward immediate gratification. It's a preparation for responsibility. And the greater the responsibility you're meant to carry, the more preparation is required. You can't build something lasting on a weak foundation. So when life slows you down, when it sets you apart or pulls you away from paths others seem to move freely along, it may not be trying to hold you back. It may be training you to hold more. What often looks like a detour is actually a refining of direction. The pause is where strength is developed. The delay is where clarity is born. These moments that feel like setbacks are often the very seasons in which your skills, your mindset, and your resilience are being forged. The stillness isn't empty. It's full of invisible work. And when you rush through it, you forfeit the maturity that comes from allowing something to unfold in its right time. Positioning also requires trust. Trust in the process, trust in your purpose, and trust in yourself. It's easy to believe in yourself when everything is going your way, but it's in the waiting, in the silence, and in the tension that your belief is truly tested. And that test is part of your preparation. Because whatever you are being called to do, it will require not just talent, but inner strength, something that only time and struggle can teach. You are not being held back, you are being held in place until the timing aligns, until your preparation meets your opportunity. You are not late, you are being made ready. This positioning may feel frustrating now, but it often leads to doors opening that are far bigger than the ones you were chasing. Doors you never would have seen if you hadn't been delayed. It's not that life is denying you, it's that life is preparing to deliver something that requires a better version of you to fully receive and handle it well. So when it feels like nothing is moving, remember, something is. You're being shaped, you're being aligned, you're being positioned for greater, not just for more. And when it arrives, you'll understand why the wait was necessary. So if you find yourself walking alone, misunderstood, delayed, or doubted, don't rush to erase those feelings. Sit with them. Learn from them, because being set apart isn't a sign of disqualification. It's a signal that you're being prepared for something not everyone is called to carry. Your discomfort isn't the end of your story. It's the ground where your strength is growing. The silence isn't the absence of purpose. It's the space where your vision is being formed. Don't confuse the lack of noise for a lack of progress. The most significant shifts in your life rarely come with fanfare. They come in the quiet decisions, in the unseen perseverance, in the choice to stay the course when everything in you is tempted to conform or give up. This world doesn't need more copies. It needs people who are willing to walk their path. Even if that path leads through loneliness, through delay, through struggle, you are being set apart not to shrink, but to rise. Not to vanish, but to lead. Not to lose yourself, but to finally become all that you were created to be. So walk forward with your head high, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are being positioned for something greater. Thank you for being here today, for opening your heart to these words, and for choosing courage in the face of uncertainty. I hope You leave not only reminded of your worth, but committed to honoring the journey that makes you who you are. Take care of yourselves. Walk boldly in your uniqueness, and remember, being set apart might just be life's way of preparing you for something far beyond what you can yet imagine. Thank you, and goodbye.